Hey guys, welcome to another video, MaxiAspie, and following my video about ADHD then and now, today I'm going to be talking about my OCD then and now and what the biggest difference is. So a bit different to my ADHD medicine, but from a very young age I wasn't medicated for OCD whatsoever. The OCD medication came later on when I was in college, just about to leave school, because it got to the point where it was ruining my life. It was quite unbearable, and I look at some of these programs where people were going into sort of therapies for it, and maybe that should have been what happened with me, but I was able to get past it with great difficulty. But growing up, I would say that the OCD was more around subjects more than anything else. And what I mean by that was my first OCD obsession was because I touched a tree stump that had a mushroom on it, and I was then obsessed with the fact that it could have been poisonous. So I was worried around the subject of poison. I was worried about the fact that someone could be poisoning me, or anything I was touching could be poisonous, which sounds ridiculous, and I know in my head it doesn't make any sense, but for an OCD person that's quite a worrying thing to think about. And through those struggles as well, you'd have a small thing that would carry on that obsession by saying, well, if you don't continue to do this, something bad will happen if you don't. So my worst case scenario was like my mum dying, so I would then do those rituals, anyway that I was doing through the poison OCD obsession. I would do those anyway to avoid anything bad happening. Then it went on to germs. I was worried about germs, which you would probably associate natural progression, from, okay, I don't think I'm being poisoned anymore, but everything I touch I think has got germs on it, and it started me washing my hands, and I had to do that a certain way once that obsession started to die down, otherwise something bad would happen. And then it was my weight. The weight one was just purely, I didn't want to be overweight, I didn't want to look bad, I was very worried about my physical appearance. And that was a big OCD obsession that went for probably 3 years. And that was just when I was starting year 6. So that was near the end of my sort of primary school sort of days, and then headed into secondary school. And then that's when I'd say my OCD changed. Around the time maybe when I hit puberty, it probably changed a little bit, and it was my worst obsession, which was around bad things happening, and that was around anything. And what I mean by that, it wasn't subject related, it wasn't about poison, it wasn't about germs, it wasn't about weight, it could have been around everything. The way that I walked off to the park, my foot, the way it would leave the curb, all the way to how I would wash my hands in a certain order when I got home, or how I was getting into bed, or one of the examples was unloading the dishes at 12 o'clock at night, otherwise something bad would happen. There was no sense to it. It was just the obsession was I was petrified that mum and dad was going to die, or my friends were going to die, and by performing these rituals it helped me combat that, and it helped me think, well, that's not going to happen now because I've done that. And that's when my OCD massively changed from then versus now. Then as well, you are more scared because you are more prone to believe those certain things. You are more subject to believing a butterfly effect of some sorts. If you do this, then this will happen, and you're more likely to give in because you're not as strong-willed. But that also makes it more frustrating as an adult, because it was around that time I had to go on medicines. The medicines did help me and get me over the OCD, and I still take those medicines to this day just in case, and it still gets bad at times, especially when you're working, because you want to do things in a certain way, and that can hamper it. But it's more frustrating, I would say, as an adult. It's frustrating as a kid, but you feel like you have to do it, and you feel like there's a bit of logic. But as you get older, there is no logic. You know that these things won't really happen. None of what you're thinking makes sense, but you still have to do them anyway. And that's what becomes more frustrating. So I'd say that's the biggest difference in an OCD from then versus now. It's more subjects, it's more things that are going on in your life that have happened, and it's tailored to one thing. As for me, when my OCD, as I got older, it became this obsession which was tailored to everything. A bit of bad luck here or there, that could happen to this, that could happen to that, that affects how you do this, that affects how you do that. it targeted everything in my life, which was quite difficult. And yeah, it's younger, more subjective, older, more of a range and more frustrating, because you know that there is no logic to what you're thinking. And that would be what I'd say in a nutshell, what is different more with OCD then versus what it is now for me. So guys, tell me what you think down below. Tell me if you agree. Guys, thank you for watching as always. Take care and goodbye for now.